season premiere of the Jerry Springer Show.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen,
Sleeping with her while you was in prison.
It's an all-out war in the family.
he's bleach blonde, bad built butch body.
A what now?
It's a tube-slipping, pole-climbing, flower-beating good time.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Come and talk about her. Y'all gonna have a problem.
Come on, guys.
Don't even play.
How you doing, people? I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It's May 21st, 2024. We're live streaming, as always, on Rumble, Locals, and YouTube. Share, subscribe, tap that notification bell, and we've got a new absolutely free newsletter starting this week for our Locals community. You just have to sign up, rubinreport.locals.com. You do not have to pay anything. You can throw in a couple bucks if you'd like to help keep us independent. But we have special information which will be distributed to you via the internet each Thursday starting this week. That little Jerry Springer intro, I want to give Connor some credit there. I didn't even know he was putting that thing together. But as he did that yesterday and then showed it to me, I was thinking, we really have basically entered the Jerry Springer version of reality, right? Like that, the fighting, the back and forth, the craziness, the who baby mama, this one yelling at that one, ripping the wig off, all that. That's basically what everyone is doing, fighting all day long about politics, about culture and everything else. And then it sort of sits online for a while, then it eventually gets into the mainstream level, then we all react to it. And it's like, perhaps there is a way to get back to a little sanity. And that kind of is our theme today. We are going to show you, we realized about right when we got to the end of our rundown this morning, when we were running through the show, that we've got good clip after good clip. Like if you want good signs that good things are happening right now, that people are waking up, that more people are seeing the nonsense and everything else, then today's show is the show for you. But before we get to all the clips and everything else, I just want to quickly hit on the big story from yesterday. We're not going to spend too much time about it, but it's worth just putting a pin in this because I think it ain't nothing. I'm sure you heard this already, but the president of Iran, Ibrahim Raisi, was killed in a helicopter crash. We've got some info from Fox News. Iran's controversial president, Ibrahim Raisi, Foreign Minister Hussein Amir Abdullahian, and other officials were confirmed dead on Monday after their helicopter crashed in a mountainous region of the country's northwest, Iranian state media reported. The death of Raisi, named Butcher of Tehran for his oversight of mass executions of political prisoners in 1988, forced Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei to install interim leadership for Iran's executive branch. An Israeli official denied to Reuters the country had any involvement in the deadly crash, saying bluntly, "It wasn't us." Iran for years has backed the terror group Hamas, currently engaged in its months-long war with Israel. Iranian state TV said Monday that there was no sign of life at the crash site of the helicopter that was carrying 63-year-old Raisi, 60-year-old Abdullahian, and other officials after it had made a hard landing on Sunday. So I just want to pin that there. I don't think we have to offer much analysis, but I don't think it's nothing. Let's just put it that way. The Israelis say they had nothing to do with it. Helicopters do crash. Let's not forget about Kobe Bryant just a couple of years ago. That was like one of the worst of the worst of the worst. These things do happen. But relative to all of the things happening in the world right now, it is worth noting that the president of Iran was just killed in a helicopter accident. Let's just put it there and we will see how events unfold. But what I really want to focus on today, as I just said, is just good sign after good sign. And it involves some of our all-stars over here at the Rubin Report, like Bill Maher and Greg Gutfeld, and we're going to show you some Fauci stuff and some other stuff. But there are real signs, and we'll sort of tie it all together with a moment that I had on yesterday's show. Hopefully you guys watched our live stream yesterday where I had James Lindsay in here, and we kind of did a normal direct message together, throw into clips and analyzing things together. And he had a really beautiful ending to the show that we do not have to let this attempted murder of America and the West happen. There is a way to stop it. I really believe there is, and that really is the theme for today. So let's just dive right into it. Last night on Greg Gutfeld's show, the #1 show in late night television, they got another late night guy, the probably one sane guy in all of late night. Bill Maher showed up to the Fox studios, right? So think about that. Lefty, liberal Bill Maher shows up to the Fox studios, and dare I say he repeated a little Dave Rubin 2017.
Bill, we were told that if we didn't transition kids, we had blood on our hands. And now we're finding out that it's actually the reverse, that we should actually be not doing any of it. What do you think?
I like girls. No, I mean, I was talking about this on my show last week. I mean, we are the outlier now, the United States. It's so funny the way sometimes the woke stuff, and I always try to make this point that liberalism is not, the same thing as woke. Woke, they would like to think they're an extension of liberalism. I'm an old school liberal. They're not. It's very often the opposite. And they think they're going so far in the right direction, and it actually turns out that they're in the wrong direction. And they've actually reversed it, because most of the countries in Europe now, England, the Scandinavian countries, the ones we used to always be able to say, well, look what the liberal countries are doing. They're all reversed themselves on this. They don't do the puberty blockers anymore. They don't do this stuff because of studies like this. And America is just doubling down on this stuff. So we are the outlier country on this stuff. And look, there's always a sensible middle ground. That's what I'm always trying to find. Now, is there such a thing as trans? Of course. There are sometimes people who are, let's just say, there's a mix-up at the factory. And you don't feel in your head the way you do in your body. But some of this is also just a TikTok challenge that got out of hand.
All right, so you guys get it. The left is no longer liberal. There is a famous video on the internet somewhere, Why I Left the Left by Dave Rubin, PragerU video with about 50 million views, explaining that from 2016. Now, it's always great when people start getting there. The reason I'm showing you that clip is not because he said something so amazing, right? We've all heard this before, and we all see him going in that direction. The reason I'm showing you that clip is there he is at Fox News, sitting with Dana Perino, Fox host, who used to work in the George W. Bush administration, with Greg Gutfeld, with Dr. Drew, who I would say he's also an old school liberal, but largely has found common cause with people on the right at this point. And Bill's being treated with complete respect. He's getting laughs, and he's getting applause breaks and everything else from the audience. And now think about it. If Bill was to go on a panel show on MSNBC, imagine how he would be treated not only by the audience, but by the other hosts. And it would not be, he would not be treated well. And we all know that, right? Imagine if he sat down with the ladies of The View. He would not be treated well. So my challenge for Bill, or for the other people that are in Bill's position, is so at the end of the day, are you going to acknowledge the same set of problems that the conservatives acknowledge? Are you going to sit with these people and be treated respectfully and friendly? And him and Greg have become friends, which is great. And then are you going to vote with the other people? And that will be the decision that Bill will have to get to. That will be the decision that his audience has to get to. Like, are you going to point out all of the same problems, all of the stuff that we see, but then vote in for the people that are ushering them in? Got another clip of Gutfeld's show last night with Bill also hitting the left when it comes to this race insanity. You may remember this Morehouse College speech that we showed. Should we show the Morehouse speech first? You want to show the Morehouse speech first, or you want to show Maher first? Yeah, you know what? Before we do it, let's flip the order here. You may remember, we showed it to you yesterday, Joe Biden gave a commencement speech at Morehouse College, which is a historically black university, and it was one of the most vile speeches I have ever heard. A commencement speech should be given to show the kids, that these young people, that there is a world ahead of them, that they can make the world, that they can do great things, they have a chance. Joe Biden gave the most divisive, racially charged, nonsensical speech that really sounded like it should have been given in 1950 rather than 2024. So let's show that first, and then we'll show you Bill commenting on it.
It's natural to wonder if democracy you hear about actually works for you. What is democracy? If black men are being killed in the street, what is democracy? The trail of broken promises still leave black communities behind. What is democracy? You have to be 10 times better than anyone else to get a fair shot. And most of all, what does it mean, as we've heard before, to be a black man who loves his country, even if it doesn't love him back in equal measure? In America, we're all created equal. Extremists close the doors of opportunity. Strike down affirmative action. Attack the values of diversity, equality, and inclusion. I never thought when I was graduating in 1968, as your honoree just was, we talked about, I never thought I'd be a president at a time when there's a national effort to ban books. not to write history, but to erase history. They don't see you in the future of America, but they're wrong. To me, we make history, not erase it. We know black history is American history.
You know, he's also just so emotionally dysregulated. Look, he's reading there, and I will give him credit. He only slurred once or twice in that little portion right there. But you could see that the emotion is not connected to what he's saying because he's just reading to make sure that he doesn't screw it up. But just a couple of the bullet points, we went through this yesterday, but he's talking about in a country where black men are killed on the street. Yes, usually by other black men. You don't want to get into that. And there's far more black men that kill white men than white men that kill black men. But you don't want to talk about that. That you have to be 10 times better to get a job if you're a black man. I mean, not only is that a lie, like an abject, complete lie, but imagine saying that to a kid who just spent 4 years at college learning, hopefully the right things, ready to take on the world, and then told that the world hates him and is going to discriminate against him, which is not true. A country that doesn't love you back. Disgusting from the President of the United States. Affirmative action. He's still fighting for affirmative action, which is actually systemic racism. Ask the Asian kids trying to get into Harvard. And then, of course, he's also defending diversity, equity, and inclusion. Anyway, it was an absolutely horrific speech. The emotional component that he can't contain properly because he's just so broken mentally. Everything he just said right there. And here is Bill, the liberal, the actual liberal, ripping that apart as well.
Do you think there is a purpose to him being so stark and bleak?
I think it's not helpful.
Yeah.
First of all, it's anachronistic. I mean, that speech would have made sense some years ago. I think we should acknowledge that racism still persists, and we should always be making remedial remedies for it. But we're not in the past. I always keep saying, let's live in the year we're living in. We're not living in the year where you have to be 10 times better to succeed if you're a person of color. And in some instances, it's an advantage.
Yeah.
In some places, it's not an advantage. But we're not living in that world that he's talking about. And I don't think that helps anybody.
But it does help that you, a liberal, go on Fox News to say that. And then hopefully some of your liberal audience goes over there and they go, oh my God, that Dana Perino's not insane. That Greg Gutfeld's not insane. And I actually agree with the liberal who agrees mostly with the conservatives. I want to show you one other clip of this because Bill, wait, this is from CNN or from Gutfeld? Sorry. This is from Gutfeld as well. One other clip of this because they started talking about Biden's cognition problems that everyone now sees. And Bill, who has gotten into it personally with Trump over the years, who has railed against Trump over the years and everything else, even he acknowledges that Trump's cognition way better than Joe Biden.
You know what's interesting as far as it pertains to Orange, he's always been the stand-up politician, right? But now he's sort of heading towards Carrot Top. Some of that stuff he's doing at the podium with the Tic Tacs and everything. He's really becoming a comedian at the podium.
Well, he's you know what? He realizes that he's winning. I think that's bothering you, Bill.
Well, it is bothering me because, again, he's an insurrectionist who doesn't believe in democracy. So, of course, it's bothering me. And, of course, he's also insane and a criminal and stupid.
Except for that, Bill.
But I got to say,
that, I'll vote for him.
Like, what works for him, like when that clip you just showed, I mean, look, he's almost the same age as Biden, but Biden presents as old, ancient. Yeah. That does not look old.
No, it doesn't.
He does not present as old.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like Kiss. He puts on the wig and the face paint, and it's 1976 all over again.
Those were the days.
Okay, so you may not agree with Bill about the insurrectionist stuff, or he's insane, or he's a criminal, or that stuff. But again, Bill is acknowledging something that many on the left seem to refuse to acknowledge. Let's not forget, we just showed you, and we show you all the time, these ridiculous clips out of Joe Scarborough's show on MSNBC where he talks about how sharp Biden is, and they keep running all these panels on CNN where everybody tells you, oh no, he's the hardest working person, and Corinne Jean-Pierre, no one works harder, and he's up till midnight, and blah, 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 blah. But everyone knows it's not true. So it is good to have a liberal show up on Fox and say that. And actually, let's give you some evidence. No, not of Joe Biden stumbling and bumbling. We can do that very easily every day. How about Donald Trump just going full stand-up? This is from the weekend. I mean, this is just off the cuff, and this is stand-up. And whether you want your president to be a stand-up comic or not is almost irrelevant. The fact that he can just do this and not be stuck to that prompter. That's what people appreciate.
But Americans are not struggling. You know, this is the worst platform. Who put this stage up here? This is the worst. The frickin' place is falling down. It keeps tilting further left. Like too many other things. What a crappy contractor this was. He's all about disinformation. Pilots come in, he said, I used to fly a plane. Truckers come in, I used to drive a truck. People come in from Minnesota, I used to live in Minnesota. Right? He is so full of shit, this guy. Terrible. Now I have fake Tapper as they said, I just want to debate this guy, but you know, and I'm gonna demand a drug test too, by the way. I am. No, I really am. I don't want him coming in like the State of the Union. He was high as a kite. Is that Joe up there? A beautiful robe? And by the end of the evening, he's like, well, it was exhausted, right? You know, it's a funny thing. I don't know if you can see it out there. Does anybody have good eyes out there? Because this is, okay, so I just got this today. Somebody handed it to me. So weird, and not as a joke. I said, anybody have any Tic Tacs? And the guy said, yeah, I have one. Look at the size of that sucker. Can you see that, Pete? This is called Biden Tic Tacs.
I mean, it's funny, right? Like, he's funny. He's a stand-up. But again, I'm showing you that because I'm trying to illustrate the point that Bill's making, which is they're basically the same age. One guy poorly reads off teleprompters, slurs every word, forgets where he is, wanders off in the forest. One guy's doing 90-minute off-the-cuff speeches that are, whether you think that's what we need or not, it's directionally towards the truth way, way more than what the Democrats are offering. So far, as promised, I said to you on this show, we were just going to show you kind of win after win after win after win. Well, another thing that's happening right now is that a bunch of the cases against Donald Trump, we already know that some of the attempts to get him kicked off the ballots in various states have already failed, but the cases against him are crumbling in real time, and CNN is even having to admit what an absolute farce is happening right now in New York City, and his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, has just completely demolished the case against Trump. Watch this.
The way this was raised and addressed on direct is what Julia Louis-Dreyfus would call yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. I mean, here's what Michael Cohen said.
I think that was George Costanza.
No. Was it? It was Elaine.
It was Elaine.
Really? Yeah.
It was Elaine on yada, yada, yada.
Let's debate it longer. I like this
but here's the direct testimony, the way Michael Cohen explained what happened.
It was actually a girl that Costanza was dating. But okay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, there you go. Michael Cohen explained this whole thing, quote, that's what was owed, and I didn't feel Mr. Trump deserved the difference. That's a lot different than I stole $60,000 from my boss on the transaction at the heart of this case. And by the way, the fact that he was never charged with larceny is important because stealing $60,000 through fraud, which would be larceny in New York State, is more serious of a crime than falsifying business records.
Oh, so Trump's lawyer is now guilty, potentially guilty of a crime that's worse than the thing that they were bringing against Trump in the first place. Like, it's going to fall apart just like every other thing that they throw against Trump falls apart. He truly is Teflon Don, right? Like, it's just so obvious, and congratulations to all of the people that kept everyone in utter hysterics about this man, as their side just basically destroyed the world, because you got pretty damn close to doing it. But now I think an awful lot of people are waking up to it. We're going to connect this to the other big story that we didn't get to cover over the last couple of days, but this was really probably the biggest cultural story in the last week, was a commencement speech given by Kansas City Chiefs Harrison Butker, where he basically just said, it's cool to be a wife and raise a family. And the machine tried to destroy the man. But because I said today's all good news, it did not work. We'll get to that in just a second. Let me talk to you guys about American financing. Guys, in today's economic climate, many of us find ourselves facing the challenge of managing our monthly expenses. And high credit card interest rates can trap you in a cycle of debt with balances that persist month after month. Paying only the minimum each month means it could take years to become debt-free. Reach out to American Financing, a trusted partner in helping people achieve financial freedom. If you're a homeowner, they can tap into your home's equity and help you eliminate high-interest credit card debt. On average, their customers save $854 per month, the equivalent to receiving a $10,000 annual raise. The process is straightforward and quick. You could close your loan in as little as 10 days, and by acting today, you might not have to pay your next mortgage payment. It costs nothing to see how much you can save. The opportunity to regain control of your finances is too significant to ignore. Call 866-890-8434. That's 866-890-8434, or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Rubin. And now back to me. Okay, so let's get to this other story because Harrison Butker, one of the players for the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl winning Kansas City Chiefs, he gave a commencement speech and he basically just said some like kind of basic stuff about being a mother, raising a family, being a decent person, and how that's kind of better than perhaps the bill of goods that so many women have been sold. So let's start by showing you a portion of that which led to the outrage.
Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 2024, you are sitting at the edge of the rest of your lives. Each of you has the potential to leave a legacy that transcends yourselves and this era of human existence. In the small ways, by living out your vocation, you will ensure that God's church continues and the world is enlightened by your example. For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now, about to cross this stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
All right, so we're going to show you more in just a second, and I think you were probably watching that going, Dave, what, that caused outrage? But yes, it did, because he basically said to women, oh, there could be something more important than just working your way up the corporate ladder, more important than just getting the next promotion or the next raise or something else. And by the way, that's true of men too, but largely it's women that are the homemaker and everything else, and that most women, if you were to talk to most women, let's say in their 50s or 60s, if they had had families, and you said to them, would you have rather spent more time at work in the corporate atmosphere or raising your children? Almost all of them, of course, would say raising the children and the family and everything else. And by the way, again, men might do that as well. You also might find a bunch of women who are 50s and 60s without families, without children, without spouses, etc., and they mostly probably regret it, which is why we always show you these clips of these lefty, single, 50-year-old comedians. I don't even need to name any of them right now, and they're the most sort of crazy and psychotic and politically mumbled and everything else because they've put all of their efforts into that instead of raising a family, which is just a fundamental thing that most people need, if I could loosely quote Jordan Peterson. Anyway, let's just go a little bit more of him talking, warning some of these young women about the mainstream feminist lies.
I say all of this to you because I have seen it firsthand, how much happier someone can be when they disregard the outside noise and move closer and closer to God's will in their life. Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you asked her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud without hesitation and say, heck no. As a man who gets a lot of praise and has been given a platform to speak to audiences like this one today, I pray that I always use my voice for God and not for myself. Everything I am saying to you is not from a place of wisdom, but rather a place of experience. I am hopeful that these words will be seen as those from a man not much older than you, who feels it is imperative that this class, this generation, and this time in our society must stop pretending that the things we see around us are normal.
Isn't that something? Like, if you just think about that Joe Biden clip we showed you a few minutes ago, where Joe Biden, again, emotionally dysregulated, angry, it's all about grievance and the world hates you and you're going to have to work harder and the country hasn't been good to you and all of this stuff, versus a football player, a young guy who's achieved like the prime success that any athlete would want to. He's on the Super Bowl winning team, talking about his wife and his family. And there's a decency to it. Like, it's not emotionally dysregulated. It's just right. And it's true. And he's telling these young women, don't get caught up in all of that nonsense, because what happens when you do is you forget about the really important things. So now let's talk a little bit about the outrage related to this, because again, anyone with a common sense brain watching that knows he's largely right. It doesn't mean for everybody. Right? Jordan Peterson always talks about that. It doesn't mean for absolutely everybody, but the bulk of it. So the bulk of us. So we shouldn't be destroying what sort of the apex is. So here is a video that was going viral. This is a cheerleader for the Kansas City Chiefs. So this girl was a cheerleader for the same team that this guy played on. Her name is Stephanie Hill. And here she is going after Harrison for that speech.
I put on a blazer and my finest jewelry in case any of the national news wants to use this and air it without my consent. My video dressing my favorite former coworker, Harrison Butker, has popped off. And I'm about it, because now I am a voice for the people that he attacked. And since the mainstream media is going to use whatever content they want, I thought I might as well dress up and give them a formal speech. It has never been about whether or not a woman should stay home with her family. If that is the best decision for her, do you. If you want to have a career, do you. If you want to do both, pop off, do you. My issue lies when entitled men in positions of privilege, such as Harrison Butker, uses a graduation speech to put a woman in her place instead of congratulating her on her accomplishments. Are you shocked at some of his public supporters? I was not, because something these people all have in common: privilege.
She seems happy. Like she's gonna, she's gonna really make a guy happy one day. Do you see the fundamental difference in way of looking at the world between someone like Harrison Butker, who I'm not a huge football fan, so it's not like I know a ton about this guy, but from the clip that we're seeing here, he's not forcing anyone to do anything. She's implying that, that he's forcing people to do anything and had to bow down to the altar of social justice to give a commencement speech. It's completely, completely insane. Well, Phoenix said it while we were watching. It's like the affect that they speak with and everything, and this self-righteous indignation. It's really just kind of gross. But of course, we know that the internet is full of just reactions to reactions and reactions to that. But I thought we'd show you sort of a positive version of that. That's a former cheerleader on the Kansas City Chiefs. Her opinion about that. I suspect she will probably go all in on her career, probably not go all in on a family and everything else. And maybe in 30 years or so, when she's about 52, we can revisit this and see how it worked out for her. And God bless her and good luck for her if it really does work out the way she wants. But again, we know for the majority of people, there is a certain set of stuff that works. But let's show you the counter to that, because here's just a random TikToker actually laying out some truth as per the situation.
Watching people on social media convulsing over Harrison Butker's commencement speech is wild, because I don't hear this kind of commotion for football players with 5 baby mamas who are on video beating their wives and children and driving their car 119 miles per hour, causing a 6-car crash. We have completely destroyed the holiness of family to the extremity of criticizing a man who goes on stage, congratulating the women for their accomplishments, even acknowledging that some will go on to lead successful careers, while still encouraging them to not be afraid to embrace the vocation of marriage and motherhood, especially if a career doesn't work out. Being a wife and a mom is important and it's pivotal, and no one should be villainized for speaking on it. In a society that promotes boss babe culture with a side order of abortions in order to be successful, a Catholic man encouraging Catholic beliefs to Catholic students is a breath of fresh air, especially after having to listen to morally reprehensible positions on a regular basis from the same people who are outraged now.
Yeah. How much more can I add to that? Yeah. And by the way, I don't even think you necessarily need the religious component to that. There is a reality component to that. So you don't have to be Catholic to believe in family and marriage and those things. You know, I've mentioned this before, but my mom, when my parents, who are now married, I think 51, 52 years, still live in the same home that I grew up in since 1979. We moved there when I was 3. My mom I'm the oldest of 3. My mom worked before I was born. Then she stopped working, took care of me, my brother who's 3 years younger, and my sister who's 9 years younger. She didn't work those years, and she was home to make us breakfast in the morning and to be home when we got home from school and take us to sports or whatever it might be, after school curriculum, whatever it was. And then when my sister was old enough, my mom then went back to work, and she was a nursery school teacher, and it was pretty great. So Mom, if you're watching today, shout out to you. Love you. Appreciate it. It's all good. Like, everyone knows that that would basically be the better way of doing things. And then this is again where it puts, and now we're going to go back to Bill Maher for a second on his show, because this is again where it would put even Bill Maher, who is an atheist, who is a lifelong bachelor, who does not like children. Here he is analyzing the speech. And again, the liberal, sane position is to understand that the Catholic guy talking about family is actually kind of right.
He said, some of you, talking to the women here, some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world. Okay, that seems fairly modern. But I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I don't see what the big crime is. I really don't. And I think this is part of the problem people have with the left, is that lots of people in this country are like this. Like he's saying, some of you may go on to lead successful careers, but a lot of you are excited about this other way that everybody used to be. And now can't that just be a choice too? And I feel like they feel very put upon, like there's only one way to be a good person, and that's to get an advanced degree from one of those asshole factories like Harvard.
Asshole factories, right, exactly. The only way you can become a good person is if you go to Harvard, get $300,000 into debt, and become a Hamas supporter on the other side. So again, I'm showing you that because Bill gets it. So that's the good news there. The average liberal sees that, knows these are inherent truths that we all know. I want to show you one other thing as it relates to all of this. Here's a video of Gracie Hunt. She is the daughter of the Kansas City Chiefs owner. And despite all of the blowback that he was getting, and people wanted him to be let out of his contract and fired and kicked out of the NFL and all the rest of it, here she is defending him.
The reaction from the Hunt family regarding the kicker, Harrison Butker.
Well, I can only speak from my own experience, which is I've had the most incredible mom who had the ability to stay home and be with us as kids growing up. And I understand that there are many women out there who can't make that decision, but for me in my life, I know it was really formative in shaping me and my siblings to be who we are.
So you understood what he was talking about?
For sure.
Okay.
And I really respect Harrison and his Christian faith and what he's accomplished on and off the field.
Yeah, again, it's just true and it's right. And nobody is saying you have to live that way. Nobody is saying be barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, right? Nobody is saying that. Everyone's saying, look at the panoply of things that you can do in your life and what do you want to accomplish, and figure out what that hierarchy is. And where does being a wife or a mother or a caretaker fit into all of those things? And do you think that if you just go the corporate route and put everything you have into that thing and nothing else, do you think you will be happier or more fulfilled on the side? Do you think you will have more or less regret, et cetera? And by the way, Harrison and Gracie right there, everyone's saying it kind of pleasantly. Bill Maher's saying it kind of pleasantly. And again, Bill Maher, 67-year-old lifelong atheist bachelor who does not like kids. And he's right. So that tells you a little something. But there's some other things that Americans and celebrities even are not buying anymore, and that is the COVID nonsense. So again, we've got some more good news. This is the Good News Tuesday show. We'll get to that in just a second. Let me talk to you guys about Fume. Guys, we all have bad habits. My buddy was one of these guys who thought he was doing well with going without, and then you're out with friends, and everyone's reaching for their bad habits. You know what I'm talking about. And you feel that urge not to be left out and asked to borrow one of theirs. Well, what if I was to tell you that there's a better alternative that helps you kick your bad habit in an enjoyable way, something you can take out with you? Fume draws flavor to your mouth and fills the void, ditching a bad habit can leave. It's not a vape, it has no vapor, it is non-toxic, and it's non-addictive. You won't ever have to charge it. Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be the next success story. For a limited time, use my code Rubin to get a free gift with your Journey pack. Head on over to tryfum, that's TRYFUM.com, and use code Rubin or scan the QR code on screen. Do we have the QR code? I don't think we have the QR code. No QR code. Look, there's a link right there. What do I have to do for you people? You'll get a free gift and you can check it out. And now back to me. All right, so one of the other things that's interesting right now is we have seen so many people wake up to the COVID insanity. Now, I wish more people had woken up to it during it, but we'll take it. But one guy, a Hollywood celebrity, I don't think I've ever played a clip of this guy before, is Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard, who's been in a bunch of the Marvel movies. I think he's the next Captain America, isn't he? If I'm not mistaken, isn't that how Avengers Endgame ended, with him taking over? You didn't watch Endgame? You only like those things with the little guys with the hairy feet. He did. He's the next Captain America. He went on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he did not get vaxxed, and then sort of became very red-pilled as it pertains to vaxxes and everything. And listen to Terrence Howard, actor Terrence Howard, on Rogan, talking about COVID vaccines and the repercussions and spike proteins and a whole bunch more. I don't know that you'd expect this from this guy, but check it out.
You took a bold stand, though, years ago when the governments were trying to poison their citizens. You took a very bold stand that nobody else took. That's what I was like, wow. I appreciate you, because I lost 3-4 jobs because I refused to take it. I refused.
I bet you feel better about it now.
Well,
especially when you know all these people that have health problems because of it.
Cancers has increased 300%.
Yeah. All-cause mortality up 40% in some age groups.
Pulmonary embolisms almost up like 500%.
Yeah. Wonder what caused that.
Well,
Crazy.
the spike proteins that's being built and collected within the system. We can go into. I can walk you through what the spike protein did to the BRCA1 gene. That's that gene inside of our DNA that tells us that there's damage that's happening, almost like the crews that go along the highway and they immediately put up cones every time there's a problem. Well, the spike protein, which is no protein has ever been able to enter into the nucleus of a cell. Not only does it go to the ribosome to say, hey, you know what? I don't want you to produce whatever protein, like if it was a skin cell, you're not going to produce keratin anymore. You're just going to produce these spike proteins. That spike protein went into the DNA and it tells the BRCA1 gene, turn off. And that's the gene that says, hey, there's a mutation here. Let's scrap that thing. And so now the cancers are building up. The spike proteins weren't shedding from the body. They collected in the ovaries. They collected in the lymph nodes. They collected in the bone marrow. So now we have all of these diseases that's showing themselves because the body is overwhelmed trying to deal with the spike protein that's attaching itself to the ACE2 and the endothelial cells in our vascular system for everybody out.
Be kind of funny if the next Captain America movie is him just explaining how we have to take down the NIH. Captain America goes against the CDC and the NIH. Anyway, look, I'm not an expert in spike proteins and everything else. However, everything he said right there is stuff that Dr. Robert Malone, the inventor of mRNA technology, who's now wildly against it, we've had him on the show, that's what he's been saying. Dr. Peter McCullough, it's what he's been saying. Dr. Drew Pinsky, it's what he's been saying. And again, this is one of those things where I think we don't all need to have the perfect scientific document in front of us to analyze it. But an awful lot of people, every single one of you watching this, you have the same experience that I have, which is that you know an awful lot of people who regret that they got vaxxed and really regret that they got boosted. And I don't know anyone that did not get the vax and it's like, I sure should have got that vax. And that is a huge problem. So the reason I'm showing you that as another one of these good news clips is that more and more people are waking up. And now check this out. Surprise, surprise. This is from Breaking 911. Breaking, former NIH director Dr. Francis Collins testified behind closed doors to the Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic earlier this year and admitted that the 6-foot separation or social distancing he parroted during the pandemic was scientifically unfounded. Isn't that something, guys? They are now admitting social distancing was nonsense. It was completely made up. And the masks, complete nonsense. It was going to come out of the mask one way or the other, right? All complete nonsense. Fauci knew it was nonsense. They all just went along with it. So why is that a good news clip on a Good News Tuesday? Because they're admitting it now. We thought we'd throw you to this one. This is December 21. So this is still really the height of the pandemic, I suppose, to some extent. I had just fled California for the free state of Florida. Here is Dr. Francis Collins doing, I think this is Science. I believe this is Science.
Somewhere past the pandemic, when we're free, there's a life I remember, full of activity. Somewhere past the pandemic, masks will come off. No more need for a nose swab every time we cough.
I would rather be injected with experimental drugs than ever have to watch that again. That's where I'm at with this whole thing. But these were the people that were in charge. And speaking of the people that were in charge. Now, again, why are you showing that on Good News Tuesday? Well, the reason I'm showing it is because look at, they were just all farces. They were all clowns and ridiculous power and money hungry grifters, which is a great segue to Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Our politicians who attack our scientists call us either misleading or flip-floppers. So there really is a big anti-science feeling among several of elected officials in the United States.
Yeah, well, Fauci, it turns out that the 6-foot thing was bullshit and the mask thing was bullshit and you forgot to put a vax in the vax and people didn't get to go to their grandma's funerals and you set children back years because of speech issues because they couldn't see their teachers' faces or weren't even in class or anything else. God only knows what other anxiety-riddled conditions you've given to young people who learned on Zoom and were basically playing video games and watching porn all day or whatever you freaking people pushed on the rest of us. But he's very concerned about the politicians. It's the politicians who dare question him because he is the science, right? Could we find a video of him being political? Do you think you could do that by the time I say count to 1, 2, 3?
Because if you look at the people that are politicizing me, there's somebody that all the way over on one level. But there are a lot of other people who look upon me the way they should as a non-political person that I am.
They're not doing it because they say they don't want to do it. They're Republicans. They don't like to be told what to do. Right. And we got to break that.
Those fucking Republicans don't want to be told what to do. I'm the science over here, dude. Come on. Oh my God. Absolutely awful. So a bunch of people who did not deserve our respect or our attention, or certainly the acquiescence that many of us gave to them as it pertained to our own health, they are still out there right now. And basically more and more people are looking at what has happened over the last couple of years and going, I do not buy any of this. I want to just throw to this one. This is from a couple of years ago. This is now disgraced journalist Brian Stelter, who got fired from CNN and then, of course, got a job teaching journalism at Harvard because, you know, that's kind of how the whole thing works. Here he is, you may remember this one, offering up to the viewers of CNN the dangers of the phrase, do your own research. So the very thing that we were all taught in school when you were a kid, do your own research, do your research. That's what CNN didn't want you to do during the pandemic.
That phrase, do your own research, it's popping up a lot in conversations about coronavirus and about COVID vaccines. Nicki Minaj used similar wording in that tweet this week, saying she was doing research. But this go it alone approach, doing your own research, it seems so innocent, but it can have serious consequences. Let's talk about it with two actual researchers. Yael Eisenstadt and Renee DiResta are back. Renee, what are the roots of this phrase? I feel like I used to hear it around QAnon craziness.
You know, it became, got a lot of coverage in the context of QAnon, but it dates back to the 1890s. It dates back to the origin of the anti-vaccine movement, where there was a lot of debate about whether allopathic doctors or homeopathic doctors were accurate in their findings about inoculation.
The idea that this has been around forever, but now that we all have these phones, we all have this ability, do your own research, you know, it's supercharged. And yeah, I wonder how you view it in the context of Nicki Minaj, like this idea that, oh yeah, she's just doing her research. Isn't that just her way of saying, I want an excuse to reconfirm my priors not to get the vaccine?
Nobody's going to the library and looking up authoritative sources to do their own research. They're doing a Google search, a YouTube search, and they're getting information that it is always easy to find information that confirms your biases, that points to what it is you want to know. Now, with Nicki Minaj, I don't assume ill intent with her. But don't forget, the same phrase, do your research, is being peddled by some people who do have ill intent, who want to push you down certain paths, who want to, either for profit reasons or for geopolitical reasons, want to make sure that you are reading certain information as opposed to listening to authoritative sources.
Guys, the people who want you to do your own research, they're doing it for profit. No, not the people who want to force you to get the vaccine and the booster and the booster and the booster and the booster and the booster, and the news programs that are sponsored by the very same vaccine companies. They're not doing it for profit. It's those other guys. You know what's funny? I didn't even do a lot of research during COVID. I was just like, I'm not going to listen to you schmucks. That was the extent of my research, and it worked out. So the point is, think for yourself. You guys get it. But what have I shown you today? What I've shown you is that more and more people are waking up to the nonsense. They're not just going with it anymore, right? If you've got a spark of individuality, if you've got any free thought left in you, you should not be going for what the culture and what the mainstream and what the Democrats and what the left are offering right now. And now that's actually bearing out in the numbers, because today is Good News Tuesday, so we'll get to that in a second. Let me talk to you guys about Grand Canyon University. Guys, GCU, a private Christian university located in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, believes that we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. GCU believes in equal opportunity, and the American dream starts with purpose. GCU equips you to serve others in ways that promote human flourishing and create a ripple effect of transformation for generations to come. By honoring your career calling, you impact your family, your friends, and your community. Change the world for good by putting others before yourself to glorify God. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. With over 330 academic programs as of December of last year, GCU meets you where you are and provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Let it flourish. Find purpose at Grand Canyon University, private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu/Dave. And now back to me. Okay, so let's jump over to that Bill Maher guy. Again, it's not about whether he pulls the lever for Donald Trump in November. It's about how many people, by him being just a freaking remotely sane liberal in a time of chaos, he can help break the bullshit, right? Get through the illusion, and then maybe they can get to the promised land. Here he is talking about how Trump is now winning with young people.
Trump is winning the young people 46 to 43. This is what I'm reading. And most of it is because of men. There's a giant gender gap now, apparently. The women have moved to the left. The men are pretty much where they used to be, probably in caveman days, but okay. 31% of women LGBT now identify as LGBT. That's almost a third.
All right, so 46 to 43, young people breaking. Also, a third of women are LGBTQ plus LMNOP. I mean, that's an awful lot of lesbians. I mean, I thought they were closing lesbian bars, but who knows? Who knows what they're up to? But anyway, the point is that you can't deny that there is something culturally shifting right now. It might have a little something to do with the fact that the President of the United States doesn't know where he is or where he was or what job he was doing during the pandemic.
And when I was vice president, things were kind of bad during the pandemic. And what happened was, Barack said to me, go to Detroit. and help fix it. Well, poor Mayor, he spent more time with me than he ever thought he was going to have to. God love you.
Joe Biden was not vice president during the pandemic. I believe that Barack might have sent him to Detroit to get him out of his hair, but it's just, you get it, guys, you get it. And it's not just that Biden's rhetoric is awful and his mind is muddled. It's that the policies of the Democrat Party at this point are completely insane. Would you like some evidence? Yes, I would. Okay, I've got some. Let's go to Oakland, California. Oakland, which was once a great state, home of the Oakland A's, Jose Canseco, Mark McGuire, who was the closer on that team, late 80s, big mustache. Come on. Everyone watching this is getting it. The closer on the 80s Athletics, Kurt something, somebody. Nobody's got anything. Do you guys have a computer? Not Kurt Schilling. The guy, he had a mustache. What's his name on the Dodgers? Hit the home run off him. Dennis Eckersley. Thank you. You all have computers. Everyone was looking at me like, Dave, there's nothing I could do here. Well, the MLB guy. Yeah. Phoenix is like, I don't Google baseball, okay? Anyway, let's go to, that was a little sidebar. Let's go to Oakland and see how the Democrat policies are working out.
A drive on the busy East 12th Street, you'll come to this high-hanging stop sign above the road. Neighbors say city workers replaced the traffic lights with 4-way stop signs in the last week.
It's just telling us that the city is giving up on us.
Courtesy of Google Earth, this was how the intersection looked before. But neighbors say those lights haven't worked in months. They were either blinking red or completely out.
This is a brand new solution to a problem that's taken many forms here.
Mason Young lives near the intersection. He believes the stop signs are better than non-working traffic lights, which he blamed for this crash that sent a truck into the fence of a repair shop.
We got to stop just putting Band-Aids on things. Although, you know, a Band-Aid's better than bleeding out.
Like, that guy should live in Cali for the rest of his life. Do you understand that they have such poor management of their city that they are removing traffic lights because they are not working, either because they can't get people to fix them properly. There were some stories about people that were literally removing, like, the transformers I'm not talking Decepticon Autobot, the transformers in the traffic lights to steal the electronic parts. But there's no law and order, and now we'll just make traffic worse, right? And everything, you guys know, Oakland is completely fallen apart, in and out, which has never closed a joint in the history of the company. They left Oakland, Walgreens is leaving, Starbucks is leaving. It's absolutely insane. But speaking of insane, let's go to where else the Democrats are showing off their really fancy ways of governing. Here's video of District Attorney Kim Foxx over in Chicago introducing a policy that is most likely going to get a whole bunch of people killed.
Is not having an impact on public safety.
State's Attorney Kim Foxx tonight tells the I-Team that before she leaves office early next year, she wants traffic stop-based searches by police to be prohibited unless there is a public safety threat.
Doing these searches, again, searches that have a disproportionate impact on Black and brown communities that don't net a public safety benefit, we should not do that.
Under this newly drafted state's attorney policy that has been obtained tonight by the I-Team, traffic stops for routine, minor infractions would not be allowed, and the state's attorney would decline to prosecute cases that are solely the product of a non-public safety traffic stop, even if a gun, drugs, or stolen property were found during the subsequent search. For instance, the case of Dexter Reed, if he hadn't been stopped under a policy that would prevent non-public safety kinds of stops, he would probably still be alive today, but at the same time, you'd have an individual with a gun. Where's the balancing factor in that?
I would also say we'd have a police officer who wasn't shot in the line of duty as well.
Incredible, absolutely incredible. So not only will they prosecute less for basic crime, basic traffic issues, which you need to do that. You need to have basic law and order, right? Like, you need to do that. But then they pull you over. They're like, oh, you didn't stop at that stop sign. They pull you over. There's a gun and a pound of weed over there. No, I can't look at that. They will destroy. If you don't think Chicago has been destroyed enough, it will continually get destroyed. This is coming or in every blue city at this point. And now let's go to the truly the clown car of progressive stupidity. Yes, we're going to California. Check this out. This is from Heather McDonald. She's been on the show. We should get her back on. She's just fantastic. And she's been screaming about what progressives have been doing to our young people in our cities for many, many years. Listen to this. California is about to demonstrate what a world constructed from the tenets of critical race studies looks like. Starting this year, anyone serving time can retroactively challenge his conviction and sentencing on the ground of systemic racial bias. The Racial Justice Act, passed in 2020 without meaningful public review, turns long-standing academic tropes about implicit bias and white privilege into potent legal tools. In other words, the bill is a ticking time bomb. Serious offenders can allege bias merely by showing that a disproportionate number of those convicted of crimes in a county are minorities. Here's an example of the RJA in action. The thinking behind the Racial Justice Act will soon expand to other policy areas and likely to other blue states. Unless voters repeal the law, California is about to become more violent and the promise of equal justice less credible. Do you realize, guys, how insane that is? You will have all of these convicted criminals, people who have raped people, people who have murdered people, all sorts of stuff, saying, get my lawyer, I want to look at the numbers. Oh, is there too many black people in jail? This is systemic racism, and they're literally going to do it. You know they're going to do it. There is no crazy that is too crazy. They will start putting the rapists on the street, and they will put the murderers back on the street. And then you will only imagine, well, you don't have to think too hard as to what will happen when they do that. Now I want to show you one other thing. So we're showing you all good stuff. And even that, I'm showing you that because people will hopefully wake up to it. But I do have on our Good News Tuesday, I do have one thing. So this is really, really disturbing, but we're going to end in a positive way. But I think it's important to show the fruits of what progressives do. It is not just crime. Okay, it is not just ruining the economy. It is not just the blight you see on the streets. It is that these policies literally kill people. So this is about a minute-long compilation just of young people who have died because of fentanyl. These are the people who are dying because we have allowed fentanyl to just pour through our southern border. We don't arrest criminals properly or any of those things. And I think that there's just some heft to this. It's powerful.
Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong.
He's loving it. Christopher, bye-bye.
All right, so let's take a breath for a moment. The reason I wanted to go heavy-handed on that is because sometimes when we talk about the crime or, okay, the traffic lights aren't working, it starts becoming sort of like ephemeral. You can't really like associate with it, or if you don't live in a place like that, you don't realize that it's affecting people. Those are all just young people who maybe did it once, or fentanyl was put on their weed, and that's it. It's over. 1-year-old kid. So how do we end this show properly on a Good News Day where I just showed you something that's probably as disturbing as anything we've ever showed you in all the years we've been doing this? Well, yesterday I had James Lindsay in here, and James has been warning about what wokeness and critical race theory and DEI would do to our system, what it would do to our country, and he has largely been right about all of that. So I asked him what he thinks we could do right now, and I thought his answer was quite spectacular.
I keep hearing this really negative message. I've been thinking about this all weekend. I keep hearing this negative message. This is the view of a society or a culture that's dying. And I want people to reframe their heads.
You mean just all the stuff that we're dealing
Oh
with
yeah,
right now? There's this new meme like, we're at the end.
The image of a dying culture. I hear it all the time. I see pictures of from the crazy stuff at Pride, and they'll say this is a picture of a dying culture, or the crazy stuff at the campuses or whatever. And I want people to stop thinking that this is a dying culture. That there are a lot of ways to die, Dave. You can get old and sick. There's a lot of ways to die. You can get shot. This is an attempted murder on our society. And I want people to understand that what we're witnessing is not a dying culture like, it just kind of expired or something went wrong, it got sick. We are in an attempted murder of our society. And if we don't start realizing it and thinking about it that way, we're missing it. That's why, I love Joe, and that's why he's asking, why do you think they're letting people come across the border? It's an attempted murder of our society. Why do you think they are doing this to our kids with the stuff in the schools, the sex stuff and everything else? It's an attempted murder of our society. And so that's the thing I've really been chewing on all week.
And what's the positive spin that we end that with? Okay, if we acknowledge that, so I'm with you. I agree. It's intentional. That's why I always say it's not ineptitude that has led to this. It's intent. So okay. So then what's the white pill on that?
Yeah. So picture imagine that the society's like a body, right? It's a person, and the boots standing there.
Well, I think what you do is you keep waking people up. So now I got 2 more clips for you. And I want to flash back now 5 years ago. We played this clip on the show 5 years ago. This is Dennis Prager on Bill Maher's show on Real Time talking about the trans agenda. And watch 5 years ago, Bill laughing at Dennis as he brings up something that now the left has wholly embraced.
To say that men can menstruate is a lie, and that is what is said. Yes.
Wait, where did that?
You never heard it, right? Okay, check it out. Anyone who says a man cannot menstruate is considered transphobic.
I missed this whole story.
You did?
I did. Tell me where you're getting this.
Just Google it. Can men menstruate?
Who is saying this? You're talking about a very small percentage.
Oh, really?
Dennis, I remember you in the old show. You were a little more reasonable.
What did I say that wasn't unreasonable?
You said that we think that men menstruate and no one does. We never even. Had you heard about it?
I'm a doctor. I missed that one, I confess.
And this is one of the premier reporters. He knows everything. These people are very. He's a doctor.
Okay.
He's one of the great.
I would make a friendly bet that the LGBTQ normative statement is men can menstruate.
Okay, so 5 years ago, that's what Dennis said. Bill said I was a little late to it, or I didn't know this. They're all making fun of Dennis. Dennis was right. If you Google, can men menstruate right now? We just did it. And it says people of all genders can menstruate. That's what Google gives you back. So the bullshit, the injection of evil into the body, if we're trying to stop this attempted murder, we have to stop allowing that. And how do you stop allowing it? You keep waking people up, so that eventually a guy who has fought for liberalism his entire life will be more comfortable sitting with a group of right-wing maniacs on Fox News than he would with a bunch of his, let's say, co-lefties on CNN or MSNBC. Let's end where we began.
Bill, we were told that if we didn't transition kids, we had blood on our hands. And now we're finding out that it's actually the reverse, that we should actually be not doing any of this. What do you think?
I like girls. No, I was talking about this on my show last week. We are the outlier now, the United States. It's so funny the way sometimes the woke stuff, and I always try to make this point that liberalism is not, the same thing as woke. Woke, they would like to think they're an extension of liberalism. I'm an old school liberal. They're not. It's very often the opposite. And they think they're going so far in the right direction, and it actually turns out that they're in the wrong direction. And they've actually reversed it, because most of the countries in Europe now, England, the Scandinavian countries, the ones we used to always be able to say, well, look what the liberal countries are doing. They're all reversed themselves on this. They don't do the puberty blockers anymore. They don't do this stuff because of studies like this. And America is just doubling down on this stuff. So we are the outlier country on this stuff. And look, there's always a sensible middle ground. That's what I'm always trying to find.
Yes, you're right, Bill. There is always a sensible middle ground. And the conservative movement, the wide 10 conservative movement, or the new sort of Trumpian Republican Party that is certainly not traditionally conservative, that's the center ground that you belong in. And that's why you're okay sitting there. And that's why they're applauding you and not heckling you and everything else. So we got work to do. I was just told two interesting things, actually. Number one, apparently Bill Maher has been on The View for this past hour. So I guess we will be covering some of that tomorrow. And again, let's see. Do they treat him, do the harpies of The View, the lefties, who are all the Democrats, will they treat him with the same respect and decency and humor that Greg Gutfeld and his audience did? I think not. And I was also told that apparently our internet went out during this live stream, but I'd like to give a little shout out to Elon Musk. We got the Starlink system, we got the satellite on the roof, and I'm told nothing, no blips, no flips, nothing. It kept on chugging on. What a world, technology, hot diggity dog. All right, guys, we got a post-game show coming up in 30 seconds at RubinReport.locals.com. See you there.